We've been talking about this a lot lately that it's nearly impossible to create success on top of negative energies. And it surprises me that I still get questions like, I don't really think negatively, so why am I still stuck? In this video, we're going to break it down a little bit. We're going to look at which five thoughts you're having that makes success elusive, and this may surprise you. This podcast is all about helping you with your spiritual growth so you can overcome obstacles and manifest your destiny to crystallize all things good, basically to have success on life's journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. So let's get started. Hi there, and welcome. My name is Remy, like Do Re Mi. I'm a best-selling author and creator of the Get Unstuck Revolution. I help extraordinary women just like you dissolve the obstacles in your path so you can bring success to you. Now let's get started with today's video. Okay, let me jump off the screen here and switch to my laptop. Today, we're talking about this idea that it's nearly impossible to create success on top of negative energy. We're going to break it down a little bit and look specifically at which five thoughts you might be having that keeps success at a distance. And I'm very curious to see which of these five common thought patterns you'd like to change so that the next level of success can come your way. If you'd like to see success in full abundance along life's journey, and if you're wanting to tap into a greater knowingness and align with the higher consciousness of your infinite self instead of the lower ego thinking and negative thoughts that push success away, then this is for you. It's time to be unabashedly, unapologetically, happily untethered to ego thinking. It's time to align with the higher energies of our soul's path instead. This episode is for you if you wonder what to do when success seems impossible, whether you have hidden toxic thoughts that are wreaking havoc below the surface, and how to quickly turn elusive, slippery success into stable, tangible success. Yes, these episodes are about how to find your hidden power when you want to transform challenges into successes. I like to call it the audacity of alchemy. Because when we're feeling stuck, it's never the situation that has us stuck, it's our energy about it that's become stuck in anxiety, overwhelm, doubts, worries, frustrations, indecision, and even anger. And often this is because of a spiritual injury that we've experienced, some kind of a hidden trauma. So it isn't the pain of our situation, it's the pain of not being connected into the natural energy of who we really are, of being connected to that magical part of us that's a creative vibrational being who can use positive energies to create what we want and bring it into physical manifestation. We can allow our manifestations to materialize and not get stuck in the negative vibrations that block them. And these positive energies that we talk about so much are where we find the magic of alchemy because our choice of frequency, our choice of those positive thoughts and emotions can change the course of our journey. They say that success starts with thinking differently from everyone else because then you can achieve differently from everyone else. But I've been caught in those patterns where I use affirmations obsessively, not knowing that at the same time, I've also been sabotaging my own success. Maybe you can relate. Here's how it goes. I'd wake up and say affirmations, or I'd look at my vision cards. As I did my morning workout routine, I'd be reciting affirmations quietly to myself, very focused on my dreams. And that might have added up to an hour a day. Not bad, right? Affirmations and vision cards for an hour a day. Well, what I didn't realize was that the other 17 hours of my day, I had thoughts running through my head that were disempowering. 17 hours a day of disempowering thoughts. So, an hour a day of good thoughts and 17 hours a day where I was shooting myself in the foot. And this is why I so often say that we sometimes have to use practice and discipline to get to where we want to go. We're breaking patterns that are very well grooved in. But we have a choice. We have a choice of better thoughts. And so we always want to reach for those. Or if you don't like the word reaching, we might also think of it as course correcting or maybe recentering our thoughts, whatever works for you. Because as we develop new thought patterns, we want to be sure that negative ego thinking doesn't slip back in. Now, for me, I personally like to swipe left on negative thoughts and emotions and then just take a moment to recenter. And believe me, I have those days where I'm recentering about every 7 seconds. Well, I'm sure you may have those moments as well. Okay, so let's take a look at those 5 toxic thoughts that make success nearly impossible and see which one of these might be holding you back. And here comes toxic thought number 1. I've tried everything, and no matter what, nothing seems to change. A few years back, I had the pleasure of interviewing Jack Canfield for my podcast. For those of you who don't know, not only did he create the Chicken Soup for a Soul series, he also wrote a book called Success Principles. He interviewed countless successful people and documented their very best success strategies. So during our interview, I asked him what he would say to someone who told him, I've tried everything. And he laughed. And he said, I promise you, you haven't tried everything. There's always one more try, one more tweak, one more pivot. Well, that goes to the old saying to never quit. We only fail when we quit trying. So maybe we feel like we've tried everything, and no matter what, nothing seems to change. But very likely, the culprit is that very thought itself. Because when we focus on everything that isn't working, well, the universe follows our lead and brings us more things that don't work. All right, here comes toxic thought number 2. The right opportunities simply don't come my way. Well, if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you know that one of my favorite mantras is life is unfolding just beautifully, and prosperous opportunities are manifesting in full abundance. Prosperous opportunities are manifesting in full abundance. I'll give you another one that I just love. There's only one true reality, and that reality is filled with prosperous opportunities in full abundance. When we realize that access to opportunity is endless, well, we can connect to nearly any opportunity we might desire. We don't have to wait for an opportunity to come our way. We can realize that opportunities are already there. They're already there. Okay, here comes toxic thought number 3. I just don't know what to do. Oh, I hear this so much. This is the paradox of choice. We often don't know what to do because every option we look at has a negative outcome. And so we end up spiraling out of control or stuck in one place, unable to move, or we run. We run for our lives sometimes. Now, whenever I work one on one with a client, the very first thing I ask is, what's your objective? And you might be surprised how often, pretty much every single time, in fact, my clients simply never identified their objective. They don't know. They don't know where they're going. And so they don't know if they're going to arrive, if they ever arrive. And so it's no wonder they end up stuck in some kind of conundrum, sabotaging their lives, sabotaging their relationships, just ruining these opportunities that were already laid out in front of them. If we can identify our overall objective, it will help us to pivot and move in the right direction when things get confusing. Remember, many times it isn't that we're going down the wrong path. Are we in the frequency of the right path? It isn't that we're going down the wrong path. Are we in the frequency of the right path? Let me tell you what I mean by that. I had a woman at one of my workshops who wanted to start a new business, and she had actually started several new businesses. Each one, she said, was a failure. She could never get traction. And her husband loved to recite lines from the Shark Tank, where Kevin O'Leary would say, if you aren't making money, then it's just a hobby. And this put so much pressure on her that she just kept wiping the slate clean and trying something new. Trouble was, she was spinning out and completely miserable. So I asked her, what's your objective? And she said that she was a creative and setting up a new business every other day was requiring her to use a part of her brain that just wasn't her greatest strength. So here's what she did. She put everything aside, all her goals and expectations, set them aside. And she just carved out an hour a day to be creative. She let the spirit move her. She did some creative projects here and there, posted them on YouTube. Before long, the comments started coming in, and it helped her identify and really get clear on her true objective, which was taking separate pieces and repurposing them into something new. And she was able to get into the frequency of creativity, and what emerged was her love of succulents. She would take 3 or 4 succulents and turn them into pieces of art, and sometimes she would turn them into a living wall. And just by staying in that frequency, she was able to find her right path. Or it's probably more accurate to say the path found her because she was in that right frequency. Her little YouTube videos turned into an Etsy shop, and she ended up with multiple streams of income, sometimes garnering thousands of dollars for projects at different restaurants and hotels and for high end homes. She thought she didn't know what to do, and that kind of thinking left her stuck in confusion. See, it wasn't that she was going down the wrong path. She needed to identify her overall objective, and that put her in the frequency of the right path. Okay, here comes toxic thought number 4. I just don't have enough time. Or I just don't have enough money. Time and money. These are probably the most common excuses, right? Well, you have the same amount of time as everyone else does. It's up to you to decide how you will fill your time. It's up to you to decide how you will fill your time. And if you think you don't have enough money, well, consider the idea that we don't keep trying until we run out of money. We keep trying until we run out of pivots. So, between time and money, let's look at time first. You've probably heard about time blocking, where we set aside, let's say, an hour a day to work on a specific task. Well, anyone can do this, but most people don't fill the hour with what's essential. And this goes back to the idea of knowing our objective. When we know our objective, we can prioritize those essential tasks that will take us where we want to go. If we can't carve out an hour a day, then use the concept of a power hour. Believe it or not, I can do a power hour in 20 minutes because I'm on full power. Make sense? It's all in our mindset and how we decide to use our time. Okay, that's time. Now let's look at the other side of the coin, which is money. I got to tell you, I get it. I've been in those situations in my life where my account is drained. I've sold practically everything I owned, and now fears have moved in because money was so tight. Been there, done that. What we need is a strategy that doesn't allow us to circle the drain buried in our fears. And one of the best strategies I know is that we don't keep trying until we run out of money, we keep trying until we run out of pivots. If we were to sit down together, you and I, and brainstorm 10 ways to get money right now, could we find 10 ways? Could we find 20 ways to make the money we need for our next pivot? Could we find the money we need for our next pivot? When we stay in this brainstorming mode, that really helps fight off the fears that can get in our way because where there's a will, there is a way. All right. Here comes toxic thought number 5. I don't want to waste my time on things that just don't work. Or another way of saying this is, I already know everything I need to know. Yeah, that's kind of a bold, rude statement, isn't it? But it's the know it all syndrome. Have you ever been in a brainstorming session where there's that one person who shoots down every single idea until everyone in the group just clams up from being shot down? Well, our ego thinking works the same way. Our ego tells us everything that's wrong, every place we failed, and every possible way that what we truly want will ultimately backfire. It sets off triggers and warning bells, and it makes us doubt who we really are and what we can accomplish. This speaks back to the earlier concept that it isn't that we're on the wrong path. Are we in the right frequency of the right path? We need to be in the frequency of the right path. Can I emphasize this just one more time? We need to be in the frequency of the right path. It may take practice and discipline. It may take every ounce of courage we have. But if we can find a way to keep our eye on the mountain for what we really desire, for what we really want, and if we can keep our eye on that successful outcome that we'd like to achieve, if we can stay in the frequency of that, then our next level of success becomes possible. Okay, so those are 5 of the most common toxic thought patterns that I see in my workshops and on my webinars. My question is, did any of this seem familiar or was it a total miss for you? Well, if so, if it was a total miss, I have a quick exercise for you if you would like to be able to spot any disempowering thought patterns that need to be corrected. And so I'd like you to think of a specific challenge that you're having. And the first thing you'll do is just scratch out on a piece of paper what that challenge is, just identify it. And then I'd like you to write down 5 toxic or negative emotions that seem to come up for you in your particular challenge. 5 emotions, 5 negative emotions that seem to come up for you in this particular challenge. Let's say that your negative emotions are confusion, feeling conflicted, frustration, doubts, and worry. And what you'll do is start with just one of these, just one, and you'll write out 10 statements for that one emotion. Let's say that we start with confusion. You might write down, I'm so confused about my job situation. I'm so confused because I don't know what to do. I'm so confused that I'm still in the same situation. And just keep brainstorming on that first emotion until you get to 10 or even 20 or even 30. You'll feel it when you've hit on the right emotion that's really vibrating for you. So you want to get all of it out. And then once you've done that, then take your next work, or sorry, your next word, which in our example is feeling conflicted. And you'll write out 10 statements for that emotion. You might write down, I'm so conflicted about whether to quit or take the promotion. I'm so conflicted whether I love my job or hate my job. I'm so conflicted about whether I need to stay for a year or just move on now. And keep going until you run out of reasons that you're feeling conflicted or whatever that second emotion is. Once you've written down everything you can think of and you've run out of steam, then move on to your next word. In our example, that next word is frustration, and you'll do it again. You'll write out 10 statements for that emotion. It might be, I'm so frustrated that I get a headache every day. I'm so frustrated that I want to scream. I'm so frustrated that I'm feeling completely useless. So do this exercise for the 5 most predominant negative emotions that you feel in your particular situation. Now, if you have more than one situation that's kind of tangled up together, do this exercise separately for the other situation. We want to focus on only one piece at a time. Now, when I do this, I find that there's usually one emotion that I may journal for 10 pages before I run out of things to write down. I know I've told you before, frustration for most of my life was my chronic emotion. So I could write out 100 pages of why I was so frustrated. So you may have the same experience. You may have one particular negative emotion that just really has a hold of you, and that's okay. Get it all out. All of it. Keep writing until you have nothing else to write down, and then you may start over again tomorrow, but we want to get it all out on the paper. Once you've done all that, here's the switch. Here's what comes next. I'd like you to choose 5 positive words for how you'd like to feel and do the same thing. Let's say that you'd like to feel a sense of appreciation, gratitude, relief, grace, maybe excitement. Whatever your 5 words are, start with your first positive word, and then you might write down, I truly appreciate the time and space I have to think this through. I truly appreciate the coworkers around me. I truly appreciate the variety of tasks that I'm given. And keep doing this for the things that you want to appreciate, for all the words on your list, all your positive emotions. Keep writing this out. And what will often happen is either the brain will make a switch and start offering some new possibilities for a solution for your situation, or your inner guidance may kick in and give you some much needed inspiration. So there we have it. This is how we deal with those toxic thought patterns that get in the way of success and make it seem so elusive. Remember, it's nearly impossible to create success on top of negative energy. So this exercise is a good way to give that negative ego thinking a voice and get that out of the way so that more positive possibilities can begin to break through the surface. Most importantly, always know that your objective so that is that you don't want ego thinking to get a hold of you again, but you want to be able to stay in the frequency of those positive thought patterns, because this, staying in those positive thought patterns, this is your hidden power. All right. As we empower ourselves towards self expression and who we are down there at our core, without these negative thoughts and emotions that can drain us and make success so elusive, Well, we get to choose a higher frequency, higher and better thoughts, because our choice of frequency, our choice of more positive emotions, changes the course of our journey. So, reflecting back on everything we covered today, how can you apply what you've learned? It often isn't that we're going down the wrong path. Are we going down the frequency? Are we using the frequency of the right path? Let me say that again. It's often not that we're going down the wrong path. Are we in the frequency of the right path? There we go. Did you hear something today that illuminated that right path for you? All right. Well, I hope this helps you as you're using the powers of alchemy to transform challenges and obstacles into positive new successes. This podcast is all about helping you have success on your spiritual growth journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. If you still can't get your head around what's got you stuck in life or in business, you can tell me about it. You can send me a question to questions at unlock your hidden power. Or you may not know that you can get a free copy of my latest book at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. You'll discover the 22 undeniable laws of alchemy and how to take a wrecking ball to doubts, worries, frustration, indecision, so that your challenges evaporate right before your eyes. You can get your instant download at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. Well, thanks for joining me today, and I'm wishing you a life filled with all the alchemy you need to bring success to you. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who's feeling stuck, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.